Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and second review of the day, we are looking at the outcome of Georgian Idol, which, surprisingly enough, was the selection vehicle for Georgia to pick their entry for Eurovision 2019, and unlike Portugal, this did incontrovertibly happen yesterday, so this is definitely the right time for me to be reviewing this song. So, after several weeks that I admit I wasn't actually following, but it happened nonetheless, because surprisingly things can happen when I'm not watching, the winner ended up being one Oto Nemsadze, who, incidentally, kind of looks like a friend of mine from university, but now's not the time for that. Anyway, his song is called Sul Tsin Iare, which means go ahead. It's fully in Georgian, just as promised. Music and lyrics completely by Roman Djorgadze. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. And, despite expectations, I do have several thoughts on this song, so enough filibustering, let's get on with my thoughts. Damn it, I should have said let's go ahead. Well, damn, Georgia. This actually is kind of a surprise. When they announced that their entry this year was going to be 100% in the Georgian language once again, I couldn't help but anticipate something kind of along the same lines as Sheni Gulistvis from last year. So it's refreshing to see that, no, they do actually have more than just that style under their belt, and that they're not just saving that level of diversity for their junior contest entries, and only their junior contest entries. Not that their junior contest entries are bad by any means, do check them out, they're a tour de force at Junior Eurovision, but time and a place. The only thoughts that come to mind to me for this song were that this kind of comes across like if the Caucasus had their version of Balkan ballads, and I mean, they probably do, it's just it reminded me of a Balkan ballad in terms of structure and presentation, but with a distinctly Caucasus kind of flair. And also, there's a synth instrument that comes into play about 1 minute into the song. That stuff, I love it. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's just something about that instrument in particular that I just really like. So, yeah, this song is surprisingly kind of a sleeper hit as far as I'm concerned. So let's get into the deeper details here. Okay, first main point right out of the gate, I just praised that choice of synth in the instrumentation, but really the larger point here is that the instrumentation of this song, by and large, is just excellent across the board. It combines familiar stuff as far as percussion and composition and traditional instruments and whatnot are concerned, but it also mixes in some more unique choices of synth and compositional styles in some places. In fact, that almost seems like a theme throughout the entire performance, so I guess that could also kind of count as a point unto itself, that the whole thing was composed by someone who's either an expert at composition or an absolute prodigy in the field. It combines the familiar with the unfamiliar in a delightful way. It's like the opposite, the exact opposite of filling a song with cliches to win people over instead. Moldova. Anyway, can we just talk about Otto as a performer as well for a hot second here? I can't speak a word of Georgian, or okay, that's not entirely true, I do know like 2 or 3 words, but still, despite that, I can kind of still understand what this song is supposed to make me feel, just through the powerful waves of emotion in his voice and the way he carries himself on stage, even his face. This guy's emotional intensity transcends language, and his stage presence join in with that and the instrumentation to knock the feelings behind this song right out of the park, as it were. And one last thing. Towards the end, it includes a curious kind of call and response between Otto and a group of male vocalists kind of reminiscent of Iriau from last year. In other words, if the language wasn't a big enough clue, this song is very distinctly Georgian. They've put their own stamp on a song that's already going to raise an eyebrow or two for its uniqueness. Once again, Roman Djorgadze is an amazing composer, apparently. Still, for as much as this song impresses me on a theoretical level, in the flesh it can sound a little disjointed, I suppose. It's kind of like how Portugal's song this year is a bit post-structuralist, but this is too, but to much less of an extreme degree. The build-up of the song is nice, but it can feel a little bit hectic, I suppose, so it is a little bit hard to follow. Then again, if I could speak Georgian, that would probably help, but as things stand, the way the song was staged live, I didn't really get any clues as to what it was supposed to mean. Then again, it was the final of Georgian Pop Idol, so I would imagine that Eurovision-ready staging wasn't ever really going to be a consideration until after a winner had been declared. Like, it's not meant to have foreign eyes and foreign ears in mind just yet. That presentation is still to come, I recognise. Still, the whole package, for as much as I like it, doesn't leave the biggest of impressions, I'll be honest, as it currently stands anyway. Unlike some of the other songs this year, I can find myself struggling to recall how it goes fairly quickly after the song ends, which is a shame, because I know that I like this song when it's on. Maybe it'll just take a few more listens for it to properly click with me here, but remember, at Eurovision, you don't get the luxury of multiple listens with most people. Most people will hear the song for the very first time in the semi-finals, and if it qualifies, a whole new batch of people will hear it for the first time again by either not having seen the semi-final it competed in, or by not having watched the semi-finals at all, because some people like that exist, apparently. Y'all are weird. Watch all the shows, you're missing out. But that's just how this song is for now. But that could all change. We'll see. Now, as far as my personal score out of 10 goes, I'm really not sure. I think I will go with 8 out of 10 for the time being. I want to rate it more highly than that because there is a lot that I like here, such as how I could write a whole damned essay on how beautifully this song intertwines traditional and modern elements and familiar and unusual elements into a single, cohesive, entertaining whole. But I struggle to like it through and through to the tune of a 10 out of 10 score when I could barely remember the essence of the song once it ends. To Oto's credit, it's not the only song this year like this, nor is it the only Eurovision song ever to run into that problem with me. Plus, there is time for that to change. I hope it does. I like this one. I want Georgia to be proud of what they're sending this year. And so, on my technical scale, I think this song earns a 9 out of 10. I really do. I really wanted to give it that full 10 out of 10 for all of its technical proficiencies and all the stuff that I've just talked about at quite a bit of length, but again, there's just something about how it's written that can make it feel a bit not incoherent, but like, well, disjointed at the very least. Not to mention, again, that it's a little bit, not forgettable per se, but just easy for it to accidentally slip out of my short-term memory. Still, I know what Georgia is capable of in the long run, and in due course, I'd imagine that they are going to produce an impressive music video with a world-class studio version of this song, perhaps even revamping it a little in the process. We'll just have to wait and see with this one, but I suspect we've not heard the last from Georgia just yet. In the meantime, what does this song mean for Georgia's grand overarching Eurovision narrative? Well, I suppose taking a step towards this kind of national final can only really be a good thing. And it's nice that they're so proud of their heritage as to give their language another shot at Eurovision, refusing to be discouraged by their disappointing result last year. Using Georgian Idol specifically, and not just a custom-built Eurovision show, does show a heartening amount of national pride that does not come at the expense of being too esoteric to appeal to a Eurovision audience. With a few years of refining the exact logistics of this process, I think Georgia could consistently turn out some impressive entries this way over the next few years. That being said though, is it enough to get Oto through to Saturday's final? My first instinct is to have doubts, I'm afraid. Not because I don't want him to qualify, because I would like for this song to get a fair chance at the top of the table, but because I'm having flashbacks to 2017, where he actually also participated in that national final that year, funnily enough. But in all seriousness, Keep the Faith was an impressively performed, impressively composed song from a similar school of songwriting techniques, and despite Tamanna's impressive vocals, she didn't make it into the final, so I do worry for Oto's chances with a relatively similar-ish song, but never say never. At this point, this year's contest is wide open, so I wouldn't write Georgia off just yet, as much as I wouldn't write any country off just yet, but that's just me. How about you? What do you lovely people think? That's what the comments are for. Poll in the iCard, let me know. Do you like the song? Do you not? Do you feel somewhere in between? Let me know. Your opinions are valid. As valid as everyone else's for that matter. So, I don't have anything else to segue out with, so I'll just say that to Oto, to the whole Georgian delegation, to Georgia as an entire country, I wish you the very best of luck at Eurovision this year, and I can't wait to see how this song turns out on the stage in Tel Aviv. See you in May.